Imagine being sentenced to jail for 18 years and then feeling happy about it. Believe it or not, but these were real emotions of Catherine Jones when she talked about how she and her brother Curtis Jones killed their stepmother at the ages of 12 and 13. Born in 1985, Catherine Jones was the first child of Curtis Jones Sr. and Stacy Parks. Within a few months of Catherine's birth, Stacy got pregnant again and gave birth to her son Curtis Jones Jr. For the world, they were a complete family of 4, but on the inside, things were really disturbing. Curtis Jones Sr. was a vicious physical abuser who'd often beat Stacy for no reason. Even when Stacy was pregnant with Catherine, Curtis didn't stop. He hit her so hard that her uterus broke and she had to give birth early. From that day onwards, things started to get even worse to the point that Stacy had to leave her kids, fly to her parents in Kansas. For a few years, Curtis Jones Sr. and the kids lived happily until one day Curtis invited a male relative over to live in his house. This man took advantage of their mother's absence and would often sexually abuse the kids, especially Catherine. When the kids reportedly told their mother, Stacy, what had happened, she immediately called the cops and an investigation was opened. The disturbing thing about the entire incident was that Curtis Sr. fully supported his relative instead of his kids. He told the child safety officer that it was a misunderstanding. During the investigation, it was also revealed that this relative had a history of petty crime and pedophilia. Even after this shocking revelation, the investigation was dropped due to a lack of evidence and the kids changing their story in order to be with each other. By 1999, Curtis Sr.'s girlfriend Sonia Nicole Spates also started living at the Joneses' house. She was a teaching assistant that had a bright and vibrant smile, but from the inside, she was just as monstrous as Curtis Sr. and his relative. She was aware of what was happening with the kids, but just like Curtis Sr., she didn't bat an eye. By this time, Catherine and Curtis Jr. decided they would do something about this and started planning to kill all the members in the house. On January 6, 1999, Catherine and Curtis Jr. began their attack. Curtis Jr. took his father's handgun and went straight to the dining room where Sonia was sitting. He went straight up to her and shot 9 rounds from the handgun until Sonia was no longer moving. She tried to grab her phone and call for help, but Catherine took it away from her and Sonia was left to die. After Sonia was no longer moving, Catherine realized that they were in deep trouble. She took the gun from Curtis Jr., emptied out the remaining bullets, wiped the fingerprints off the gun, stormed out of the house. The cops later on caught them in the morning at 7 a.m. and the two were put into prison. During the trial, their defense attorney put forward the child abuse cases from previous years, but that didn't do much for the siblings. Curtis Jr. was sentenced to 22 years in prison as he pleaded guilty for murdering Sonia, and Catherine was sentenced to 18 years in prison for assisting Curtis. However, Catherine requested that her brother be granted the same sentence as her, which the court approved. They became the first kids to be sentenced as adults instead of juvenile. Instead of taking care of them and providing them therapy, the kids were given the worst of all punishments. While in prison, Catherine married Navy Officer Senior Chief Ramus Fleming. She was released in 2016 at the age of 30. She is now a mother of 2 and is leading the campaign for fair sentencing for youth. Curtis Jones was released a year later and is now a Christian minister.